Hello and welcome back to Thunderquack Perfect 10, the podcast where we explore the pop culture masterpieces we love. I'm your host, Michael Cohen. You might be asking yourself, what exactly is a perfect 10? Simply put, a perfect 10 is a piece of pop culture media we love unconditionally. This isn't about review scores, it's about pure joy, because everything around here is a 10 out of 10 to us. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Curtis, Dan, Brian, Mark, and Sherston. Your support makes this podcast possible. Head to patreon.com/Thunderquack to get early access to Thunderquack Perfect 10, exclusive podcasts, and more. And look up in the sky. Is it a bird? A plane? Nope. Just a dopey himbo with a rocket on his back. We're talking Joe Johnston's 1991 adventure classic, The Rocketeer, with Missy. Welcome back to the show, obviously.
Thank you. I'm super excited. This is going to be a really fun one.
I'm super excited as well. So if anybody has been like following along with Perfect 10 for a while and is like, I don't know, I think that there's a couple of you. I think everybody who listens to Perfect 10 is hardcore because there's really just the core audience. But if you're one of the people that like pays attention to the schedule that I post, this is not the movie that was supposed to be discussed in May. So we've got a slight change to the schedule. Ty will be on in July to talk about The Meg. So if you watched The Meg going like, I'm going to watch this in advance of the Perfect 10 episode that's coming out, you're fine. We're still going to talk about it. Actually, it'll be about both of the Meg movies. We'll be talking about 1 and 2. So just a heads up there. And so we've moved it to July, which is perfect because it'll come out literally the week after Shark Week. And I can't think of a better time to talk about shark movies with Ty. But because I had to reschedule that, I was like, I need to get somebody in here quick. and thankfully the first person that I asked was like, absolutely, and brought just a slam dunk of a Perfect 10 topic. So thank you for that, Missy, for both jumping in on pretty short notice, but also like bringing a topic, a movie specifically that is like no heavy lifting. No heavy lifting required.
Well, it was so funny because, to your point, a lot of the media that's been coming out recently, certainly, and or in a lot of other things, that like they're quite heavy. There's a lot going on. It's heavily related to, what's happening right now in our world. And so when you asked, it was literally just the first thing that came to mind. I was like, what's just straight up fun? And so I was like, well, someone's probably done it already, right? Because it seems perfect for your podcast. And so when you were like, no one's done it yet, I was like, nice. So I'm very excited because it's just a sheer delight from start to finish.
Oh yeah, this is a movie that absolutely falls in the sweet spot of what I'm looking for when I'm thinking of like topics for Perfect 10, right? Because The Rocketeer is a movie that is like everybody who loves it. Loves it, right? But it is one of those movies that's like, oh yeah, The Rocketeer, right?
Yeah, people are like, oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah,
like it's a movie that everyone likes, like you said, but everyone kind of also forgets about, which is funny.
Yeah, and it's a 90s movie, and so it just fits.
It 90s hard. This is 90s-ing very very hard.
Yeah. Let's get the primer and then we can jump into details for
Sweet.
sure. So what is The Rocketeer? Based on the 1989 comic book character created by Dave Stevens, The Rocketeer is a 1991 adventure film directed by Joe Johnston and starring Bill Campbell, Jennifer Connelly, Timothy Dalton, Alan Arkin, Paul Sorvino, and Terry O'Quinn. Johnston's second film as director, The Rocketeer is a Disney adventure set in an alternate 1930s Los Angeles where Howard Hughes has built a fantastical jetpack sought after by the Nazis as part of their plan for world conquest. Along the way, our hapless hero, Cliff Secord, stumbles upon the device and has to keep it away from mobsters, the FBI, and a narcissistic Hollywood leading man in order to rescue the love of his life. Oh, and for some reason, there's a giant strongman. Yes. Adventure, I guess. So grab your Art Deco helmet and fireproof pants because we're blasting off to punch some Nazis with the Rocketeer. Yeah, I mean, like, it's so funny because you're like, yeah, with all the sort of like there's all this like really heavy content right now in the pop culture sphere, right? We've got Andor for Star Wars. We've got The Last of Us over on HBO, which I
Yeah.
like so behind because I just can't bring myself to like sit down and watch. I like because it's you got to be in a headspace for that show,
Yeah.
or you're gonna
Yeah,
just
for
wreck
sure.
yourself.
Hmm.
Even the latest Marvel fare is like, hey, it's Marvel, but like, what if Marvel was like about eating your shadow,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like in very very literal ways.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like
like unless you,
trauma informed Marvel. And I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know if I'm ready
yeah,
for that right now.
yeah, like unless you're in the mood for a very like Jungian like
Yeah.
exploration of the deep dark night and all of that sort of thing. Thunderbolts might not hit for you, but like, it did for me. It was amazing. But
Yeah.
but to just like go, hey, this is an adventure. This is just an adventure. We're just like, he's got a jetpack. Most of the movie is not even him fighting anybody. It's just like, we've got a jetpack and we got to keep it away from the bad guys.
Hmm.
And we got to save the girl, and don't worry, because she's pretty capable of saving herself. But like,
Yep.
yeah, it's just adventure. But when it comes right down to it, everybody just wants to punch the Nazis.
Yeah, I
And
know.
in 2025, I just feel like it's really great. It's great for this moment of like, even
Yes.
the bad guys at a certain point in this movie, spoilers I guess, if we're jumping all the way to the end, but even the mobsters are like, hold up, he's a Nazi? Oh
Yeah.
no. Oh no.
They're,
No, no,
they're
no,
like,
no, no.
nope, nope. Yeah.
I'll do a lot
And
of things. I'll kill people. I'll torture them. I will
yes.
maim, but I will not work with a Nazi. And that to me is just like perfect.
It's so fun. And like, so if you want proof that this is like a bubblegum movie, bubblegum
Mm.
literally saves the day.
It is. It is.
It's so
It's the
funny.
first. It's the first joke in the film. It
Yep.
is in every act, and it is also the joke that closes out the movie.
Yes.
Like it's
So
yeah.
great.
It might be, and I wrote this in my notes. Chewing gum ain't gonna save your butt might be one of the earliest Chekhov's guns,
Hmm.
other than like, I think like the literal Chekhov's gun, because I think that
Right.
Chekhov's gun might be like the opening shot of that
Hmm.
film, but but yeah, like it like that it's I think the second or third line in the movie. It's literally like,
Hmm.
if not for the very slow 90s music over credits opening, it
Hmm.
would be
Hmm.
like 30 seconds into the film.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 minutes into the film, because the first 2 minutes are just like credits slowly fading onto screen as we hear this very triumphant
Oh
score.
my God. It
Um,
is so 90s. When I was watching it, I
oh,
was just sitting there like, remember when movies were like this? Oh my gosh. They were all
remember
like
when
this. It was
everything,
great.
yeah, everything had that faintly sepia tone to it. It
Yep.
wasn't
Yep.
sepia, but everything was just kind of a little bit more brown than normal,
Mhm. Mhm.
than
Mhm.
reality. But it was almost like a every the that aesthetic, which I've actually talked about a lot on Perfect 10, because it comes up in a bunch of the movies that we've talked about.
Mhm.
It's very dreamlike, right? Like, it's
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
it is actually part of the suspension of disbelief of going into a film,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
it's so funny because it's actually like that era comes to an end with two movies in particular, Blade and The Matrix, which are like
Mm.
98, 99. And like, that is, those films signal the end of the 90s era of film and the beginning of like the 2000s and the superhero era.
I would put
um
Attack of the Clones in there as well because I remember Attack of the Clones looking just sharper than anything that
yeah,
came before it, and I
yeah,
remember being like, "Oh, the aesthetic has changed." Like, and not necessarily in a bad way, but it was just different. And like you said, we just
yeah,
didn't really get that almost kind of grittier look, I guess. After that, everything suddenly got very like smoothed over. It was like all of a sudden
Yeah.
everything was airbrushed almost was the
Yeah.
feeling.
Well,
And they,
Attack of the Clones is the
yeah,
first fully digital film,
right, which is
right?
why it feels
So
that way.
it's a big part of
Yeah,
that.
it's very
But yeah.
slick. And so, but prior to that, everything was like this. And what I do find kind of funny is like there is some, I don't even think it was green screen. I think the screens were still blue. So I think it was blue screen. But like even the blue screen in this like doesn't always hold up.
Oh, for
some of
sure.
the
Yeah.
some of the compositing is questionable. Some of the scaling doesn't really work. Like they'll have him get like too small too fast or something like that,
Yeah.
as he
Yeah.
goes into the distance. So like some not all of that stuff holds up, but there's also like a charm to it because it's not CG. So it's fun. It's fun to watch because you're just like, oh, this is all practical effects and compositing.
There,
Yeah.
there was a point in my life and this was like pretty soon after I finished film school and sort of had the knowledge of how much work it takes in order to pull some of this stuff off to the degree that they do in films. And I just having I think experienced that and having like tried to execute things myself with like very low tech stuff that we had. I mean, we were
Yeah.
high low tech. But I have the attitude of like I don't care if it looks real. What I care about is two things. Is it like does it fulfill the purpose in the story? Like that is number one. And then after that, does it look cool? It doesn't need to
Yeah.
look real as long as it looks cool.
Yeah.
And there are a few moments, especially like the daytime stuff, that because of the matte lines and stuff like that with the compositing, it's really rough. It's really
Yeah.
rough.
Mhm.
But thankfully, most of this movie takes place at night. Most of him rocketing around is at night, and so
Yeah.
like that stuff looks a lot better. But it it's just straight up the idea. It's just straight up the concept. Like we're gonna do it. He's got the rocket pack, the helmet, all of it,
Yeah.
and
It's so
it's comic
goofy.
book. Like yeah,
It's so goofy, and I love that about it actually. Like
yeah.
it's like I love that he like punches out the hood of his plane with his fist.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
He's able to just punch straight through the hood of his plane. Like what? That was so funny.
I'll actually defend that a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because he's a stunt pilot, and the plane that the like that plane is a stunt plane, right? So it's designed and built for aerial acrobatics, which means that it's as light as it can possibly be, which means that metal is as thin as it can possibly be and still like have some structural integrity. But that would be a literal thing. Like those planes would like crumple
Yeah.
because they were designed to do things that other planes couldn't do. And
Yeah.
the point of it was that they were fragile. They were sort of like these. It's very similar to like an F1 race car, right? Like
Right.
like
I'll
those
give you
things are like
that,
as
but they
bare
never
bones as possible.
I'll give you that, but
Yeah.
they never explain how he doesn't like burn his butt off.
Yeah. No.
So like it's just really it's cheesy and you have to fully embrace it going in, and it's as the kids say, it's cringe, but it's just the best. It's so fun. Yeah.
It's great how they do actually like have a moment where they explain how the jet pack itself is wearable, because like, oh well, we did this and this and this in order to like we're cooling it down while also injecting the fuel, blah blah blah, so that the rocket pack itself is not getting as hot as a rocket engine would. But yeah, at no point is anybody like, hey, don't like bend your knees because you will literally incinerate your feet. Like it's because the amount of force required in order to like use like propelled flame to shoot a man into the sky, particularly at the speeds that the Rocketeer is going, it's nonsense, right? Like, but it doesn't matter because
the science doesn't work. And I think if you want to learn more about it, just because it's interesting. So Mythbusters did actually do an episode on this, and it's a fun episode. So I do recommend looking up the Mythbusters episode because it's a good time, because they kind of go into all of that and how you burn your legs off and all these other things. But it's really fun. and it's like but it's really enjoyable, and it's very into that you know late 30s, because this is supposed to be 1938. It's very into that late
Yeah.
30s tech. So there's a blimp, and you know, and there's
Yeah.
all these other things. Like it you know how everything during that time was just like a little bit cyberpunk, just a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a good time. It's really fun. And they're not super on top of it in terms of the excuse me, historical accuracy. So there's a blend of like Tommy guns, and then you know like
Yeah.
more 1940s stuff, and it's kind of all over the place, but it's really fun. And I'm obsessed with Timothy Dalton in this. He is so freaking funny. Like and you can tell he just loves being a villain.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was
Oh yeah.
so speaking of which, have you seen Flash Gordon?
Like the 1980s Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my
Not
god.
in a long, long time, but yes,
Because
I have
he's
seen
the
it.
bad guy in that, and he's
Yeah.
so funny.
It's great because like those obviously Timothy Dalton is originally made famous by portraying James Bond, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so but as like he's kind of regarded as one of the worst, if not the
Yeah, he's
worst
like the
James
worst
Bond.
Bond. Aw.
And so when he started getting cast in the 90s, it was like because I think there was like a bit of a thing of like in that 80s era when he was playing Bond.
Mhm.
Um it was like, oh well, he's not Sean Connery, right? And so people like he
Right.
kind of got a little bit of that reputation.
Mhm.
And then if I'm you know like if I understand it correctly, he kind of goes away for a little bit and
Mm.
then comes back, starts coming back in the 90s, but like cast counter type like this role, which
Mhm.
this one is so perfect because he is playing a leading man. He is playing the guy who would play James
Yes.
Bond, but it turns out that he's actually utterly despicable
Mhm.
and a Nazi to boot, right?
Yep.
And yeah, he absolutely chews the scenery, but
He does.
it's that role and like Flash Gordon and a few other things that he does in the
Mhm.
90s that then in Hot Fuzz in the 2000s
Oh my
Edgar
gosh, you're
Wright
right.
seizes
You're
on, right?
right.
Because it's like
Yes.
because we see Timothy Dalton and we're like, well, it's Timothy Dalton, but in a British movie, so is he the good guy?
Yeah, you're
And then
like, you can't tell.
yeah, but it's like no, obviously he's the bad guy, and then you get the great moment of him standing in front of his own picture with the same look on it, like just
Yes.
and being in on the joke, which then makes you like retroactively, I think, look back at a movie like this, where I think at the time his performance wasn't received the way that we're talking about it now, where it's like
Yeah.
he very much knew exactly what he was doing and was
Mhm.
playing against type
Yep.
and using that to manipulate the audience to feel a certain way about this character. Um,
Mhm.
but like that's a very meta thing to do, and the 90s were not meta, right? I don't know if people in 2025 thinking about film, and especially like younger film viewers, really understand how sincere the 90s were, especially
Mhm.
the early 90s, like 91, like when this film is coming out.
Mhm.
Like this era was so sincere and saccharine and just
Mhm.
like melodramatically, like everything is so genuine and like
Yeah.
face value, right?
You will never
I
get more like true love saves the day than you
yeah,
do in early 90s movies. It was
yeah.
like definitely the hot zone for all that stuff.
And
It
yeah,
was so fun.
and then
Mhm.
Rocketeer is one of these movies that is like, oh, this is a comic book movie, but it's a comic book you've never heard of,
Yep.
and you know, it's an adventure film. It's an Indiana Jones movie without
Yes,
Indiana
it
Jones
is.
in it, right?
Mhm.
Like, that takes place all in Los Angeles, like all in one location. So there's none of this like globe trotting sort of stuff.
Yep.
It's a World War II film that's technically before America enters World War II. So it's like,
Mhm.
you know, like we're not quite there yet, which I think is also a difficult thing for a lot of people to read because the history books and the way that World War II is taught, especially to Americans, is that it didn't start until you know, Pearl Harbor. Like that's
Well,
when
but
World
this
War
this
II
was
starts,
actually
guys.
before it even started in Europe, because this is
Sure.
38 and it
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
start
yeah.
till 39. So what I thought was really interesting is the framing of it, especially when they they have two different things that kind of frame the timeline, if you will. And one is the excuse me, the newsreel that they
Yeah.
see when Cliff and Jenny go to the movies at the beginning, and so they see this newsreel, and it kind of tells you about what Hitler is up to and all this stuff. And Cliff's making snarky comments about how he's going to take everything over and all this other stuff. And then much later, when they meet up with Howard Hughes, they watch this very cool animated
Yeah. Yeah.
newsreel or propaganda film, which I actually find really interesting that they animated this whole thing for the movie. But then that one implies that if the Germans were to get their hands this on this rocket pack, that they would not just take over Europe, but the United States as well. And so
Yeah.
the sort of historical revisionism happening here is, hey, the reason the Nazis didn't invade the U.S. is because Cliff kept them from getting this rocket pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah, because that's what was
Mm-hmm.
stopping it, guys.
Yep.
They didn't have rocket packs, so like, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
crossing the Atlantic was
Yeah,
just
they
not
couldn't
going to
do it,
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's the World War II stuff to me is always such a funny thing because like especially in 2025 when we're talking about, you know, sort of the attitudes in you know the Western world right now about Nazis and
Mm-hmm.
about fascism,
Mm-hmm.
and people sort of like being very very quick to dismiss
Yeah.
the reality of the fascism that we're seeing enacted as we record this episode in May of 2025, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's there, and it's like we are in the moment now that this movie is taking place in in
Yep.
its time period, right? Where like yeah, because Cliff has the moment where he's like these guys like mark my words, they're bad news,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman's like shush, as if like
Yeah.
as if to be like oh whatever,
Yeah.
like
Why are you worried about this?
you're
Yeah.
being alarmist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no
Exactly.
one seems to be all that concerned with a Nazi zeppelin flying over the United
Yeah,
States,
exactly. It's this
right?
idea that they're having their like world. I don't forget what they called it, like world outreach or world peace tour. I don't remember,
Yeah,
something
the
like that.
World
But the
Peace
whole
Tour.
thing is like, oh, this blimp is going to be travel across the United States and everything. So, yeah, it's very goofy and but it's really fun. But yeah. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to go through the movie, or do you want to talk about just the characters? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, the plot of this film, I think I've already covered, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they get the jetpack by accident because some mobsters stole it from Howard Hughes on behalf of Timothy Dalton, who is a Hollywood leading man
Who's a
who turns
secret
out to be a
Nazi?
secret Nazi.
Yeah.
I and you know, Cliff's girlfriend gets kidnapped, and then he has to save her, although she's pretty capable of saving herself.
Yeah.
It all takes like it all culminates in a fight on a zeppelin over the Hollywood Hills, and there you go, boom. That's the plot of the film, right? So
That's the whole plot.
I don't think that we need to like go in because there's
No.
not. We talked about this before of like right before we started recording of like there's not really a lot thematically going on here.
No.
This isn't going to be one of our like, oh, what are like the motifs and no.
Yeah. Psh, nope.
Nazis are bad guys. Punch them in the
Yeah.
face, man.
Punch him in the face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the theme going on here. But I think it's so funny
It is so
not to
funny.
take us off topic into Star Wars world, but like you and I have been talking a lot about Andor right now, and the way that story is very much like eschewing the characters in favor of the plot.
Yep.
Whereas like this is a movie that is like, oh, this is 90% character stuff.
Oh yeah,
And
you're like, what plot? What plot?
yeah,
There's no plot.
not even like an arc really, because I don't think that
Yeah.
Cliff really goes through an arc so much
Nope.
as like this is just a sequence of events in his life, where we get to see what kind of a man he is, right? Like we
Yeah.
just get to see what he's
Mm-hmm.
made of. Like the hero's already there. It's just like this is the universe sort of presenting it to him of like, hey, by the way, did you know that you're a hero?
Yeah. Yeah,
He already kind
exactly.
of was, right?
Yep.
And him sort of figuring out his place with that, and yeah, but really this is about like this is about, you know, just seeing a good guy be a good guy,
Mhm.
and seeing a bad guy be a bad guy, and a damsel in distress maybe not be in as much distress as
She's
she's
fun. I
letting
like her
on.
a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I like her like as a character, but also she's played by Jennifer Connelly, looking like Jennifer Connelly, and
Yes.
like I mean, she just rocks that old Hollywood glamour and is just
Oh,
like the most beautiful person.
I,
Like it's
I
ridiculous.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that like Bill Campbell and Jennifer Connelly on screen together in this film are one of the absolute like I like academically most beautiful pairs
Yes.
ever on
Agreed.
screen. Like
Even
because
with his 90s haircut, they are the prettiest people.
he's just like because he is just so like quintessentially now. Okay, I'm gonna be really clear about this. We're talking about a beauty standard that is very much white European ethnocentric, right?
Sure.
Like that's what we're talking about. So obviously there's a caveat there of like we're talking about white people, and for white people like yeah, absolutely, like I'm putting this up there and it's like this might be actually like the prettiest couple ever on screen
They're extremely
because
pretty.
he's just
Yeah.
so like quintessentially exactly the right balance of rugged, but also like boyish good looks, right?
Yeah.
Like he's got a strong jaw, but he
Yep.
also has just such soft eyes, like
Yep.
just
Yep.
so, like I mean, I described him in the beginning as a himbo, and that is absolutely what this
He is
character
such
is.
a well, and they make a point of that. He's
Yeah,
not the brains of the operation,
no, no,
right?
he's
Yeah.
got backup for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
Peavy, I think is the guy's name.
yeah, PV and Alan Arkin's
Mhm.
performance is so good.
Oh my gosh.
The
Yes.
end of the movie when it's like obviously like, you know, Cliff's been through all this stuff, rocket pack, fighting Nazis, saving the world, all of that. He gets his plane, and Howard Hughes, who only cares about airplanes, is like, "Hey, man,
Mhm.
it's a pretty good airplane. What
Yeah.
about that jetpack? What was it like?" And he's like, best thing in the world." And then he sees the girl, and he goes, "Well, maybe not." Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you immediately get the moment after that where Jennifer Connelly gives Alan Arkin the blueprint that she found
Mhm.
that was stolen, and then she stole back and gives it to him. And I we see that like Cliff has learned that like flying a plane's not the most important thing.
Right.
His reputation isn't the most important thing. The love of this person, right,
Yeah.
is what it's all about, and that's what he's fighting for. So he's learned that lesson. That's I suppose his arc. But
Yeah.
then like PV is like, oh man, look at the blueprint. I think I can make this even better. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, PV doesn't care about women. PV is in love with
Well, did you hear what
the
they have? Because he
machines,
says
right?
something to him about how like you haven't dated a woman since 1932, which would have been
Yeah.
6 years previous. And he says her name, and I forget what it was, but like he says the name of the woman, then he goes, "There was no point in dating after her." And I'm
Yeah.
just like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
some woman
Yeah.
completely wrecked this guy."
He
So
I mean like,
funny.
you know what, that's sometimes the way it goes. You hit the peak and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
listen,
You're just like,
if I
nope.
can't have that, then what's the point? Let me build an
Yeah,
airplane.
yeah,
uh
exactly.
yeah.
But he's like he's presented as this genius. He can do anything. He makes adaptations that even genius Howard Hughes didn't think of and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And it's just like it's so. But I like that because it kind of takes me back to if you go back to the Marvel movies or even the DC movies, but a lot of times you have them, they're geniuses, right? You
Yeah.
have Iron Man and excuse me, and Spider-Man, and to a lesser extent, but still true, Batman. I mean, like it's he's very intelligent, world's greatest detective, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that you have this hero who is completely sincere, completely genuine, and he is a very talented pilot. But that's kind of all he's got going for him.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's not particularly brilliant, and I think that's it's a change of pace, right?
I,
It's something different.
there was a period where like himbos were not, it wasn't a bad thing, right?
Right, it
Like it,
wasn't.
because like Han and Luke are both himbos, by the way,
Absolutely.
like all
Yes.
throughout the entire original trilogy, and Luke sort of
Mhm.
starts to shed it a little bit in Return of the Jedi, but
Mhm.
even still, there's a lot of things that he does in that movie where you're like, this is himbo behavior. It's just, he's just gotten better at masking.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're himbos. I Indiana Jones is a himbo, even though he's
Yep.
also like he is an archaeological genius. He is absolutely a dope when it comes to like dealing with
Anything
women,
else?
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like he belongs in an ancient tomb or the library and nowhere else. I
Mhm.
like the archetype is all over the place in the 80s and 90s, for the
Mhm.
hero characters,
Yeah.
and it like Marty McFly is another really great example of like, if you really
Yes.
look at that character, he like that we just did Back to the Future with Cheryl, that was our previous episode, and
Mhm.
Marty is not, he's not a particularly bright guy. He's
No.
not, he's not strong, he's not big, he's like he is actually kind of just lucky and
Yeah.
charming,
Right.
right? And that was kind of the vibe. It was kind of the vibe in the 90s.
It really was.
And then you had a supporting cast. You had Doc Brown, or you had
Mhm.
Princess Leia and Chewbacca, and right, like you have these other characters that round it out. They make the journey of the hero that much more sort of robust, right?
Mhm.
Whereas I think somewhere in the late 90s and the early 2000s, we really 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 started to over index on the rugged individualism,
Yep.
and you start
Agreed.
getting characters that are
That can do
all
everything.
things,
Yeah, they
right?
can, yeah,
Like,
they are all things, they can do everything. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Mhm.
um and certainly, like, there are a lot of characters in that time period that are misread as
Yeah.
that. So like, I'm looking right now, I've got a Goku action figure right in front of me, and people do not understand Dragon Ball Z. This is like one of many episodes where I am bringing up that fact, because people just
Mhm.
don't get that Dragon Ball Z is like anti-patriarchy, it is anti-toxic masculinity. They think that it's
Mhm.
a show about punching, and that Goku is strong, and that's what makes him cool. And it's like, and then Neo, I brought up the Matrix a little bit ago, and it's like Neo
Mhm.
is another character that like people read as a like wholly capable 100% hero, and it's like, no, he's like, there's a lot of flaws there, and there's a lot of interesting things to dig into, and there's a lot of things going on under the surface, but the way that we started reading heroes in film and TV became very much part of, and it's part of a larger cultural narrative that is very
Yes.
much fueled by politics and a lot of other things that
Well,
oh, you got to pull
yeah.
yourself up by your bootstraps, only you
Yeah.
can do it, sort of thing.
Well, that's another feature of this movie that I want to talk about. So, what you just said
Hmm.
about the supporting cast. So, one of the interesting things about this movie is that Cliff has a community that is
Hmm.
always there for him. They
Yep.
support him, they're there to bat for him, they'll defend him, they'll protect him. Like, it's really great. And so, like, there's this whole, aside from obviously Peavy, and then there's like a staff down at the excuse me, at the airfield, and then there's everybody he meets over at the little diner. There's the woman that owns the diner. There's the little girl. And then even the other girls in Jenny's house that she lives in. Like, she lives in
Yeah.
this dorm with other young women, and like even they're part of the community and everything. And then of course eventually, to your point about the characters changing sides in order to fight the Nazis, you end up with the feds and the gangsters fighting on the same side as Cliff and his friends.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so what ends up happening is you end up having this whole community coming together And that's just something that was a much more common feature of early 90s movies. Yeah, I
Yeah.
recently rewatched Mr. Holland's Opus, which is amazing. And
Mm.
that's that story as well. Is it's a story of one man, but it's a story about how he supports his community and they support him. And so, this was just very common. And to your point, now we're in a place where it's like, everything's about the hero. The hero is all things to all people. Only he can do it. No one else can. And there's no
Yeah.
one else who's going to step up and support him and have his back. He's just got to do it himself.
There's a scene in this movie that
Mm-hmm.
really stood out to me, and it's so funny because it's like it's really not that big of a deal in terms of plot or like moving the story forward in any way. I but when Malcolm, who is one of the other people from the airfield that's at the diner, set like
Mm-hmm.
puts his foot in his mouth and
Mm-hmm.
spills the beans and whatnot.
Yep.
Um, and then Jennifer Connelly takes off,
Yeah.
and Cliff runs after her, and he's outside. And Malcolm, this is a scene that would not be in a movie today.
No, nobody would
Malcolm
include this now. Mm-hmm.
Malcolm comes out and is like, and it's such a great performance moment too, because like
Yeah.
you really feel that he's like, oh man, I am such an idiot. I feel
Yeah. He feels
so
so
bad about this.
guilty.
There's a genuine empathy there
Mm-hmm.
from a masculine character to another masculine character
Yeah.
that just like in 2025 or even the last 10-15 years, probably 20
Yep.
years, like that is just like that. If you put that in a movie today, somebody somewhere is gonna be like, why is this movie so gay? Right?
Yeah,
Like they
exactly.
would use that in a pejorative way of like, this movie is like so weird and girly. Guys don't talk
Yeah.
like that. And it's like, well, hey, guess what? Men used to
Yeah.
be able to like care about other men. This is not
Yeah.
it it as much as film and television in the last 20 years has tried to rewrite that history, that men have
Mm-hmm.
always been macho,
Yeah.
like burly, like rugged individuals. And it's like, oh, I don't need nobody but myself.
Yeah.
And, and I will take this woman as my conquest sort of
Yeah.
thing. Like that is actually not how things were
Right.
historically. Like in this time period, yes, there is a lot of chauvinism. There is a lot of patriarchal stuff going on, but also there were elements of society where men were allowed to have feelings. It
Yeah.
wasn't until like the 60s that started to be like, hey, stop having
Right.
feelings, right? That's
Right.
what the whole series Mad Men is about. And
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to break it to people, like it's a takedown of that. It's not a
Yeah.
celebration of it. So stop acting like it's cool.
Yeah.
It's all of those things are painted as bad in that series.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
we've lost it. Like people have just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely lost the thread when it comes to masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, they would look at a scene like this and be like, oh, that's a weak character,
Mm-hmm.
right? Malcolm is a weak character. And it's like, no, Malcolm is a loving character. He
Yeah.
gets in the plane and is like, I'm gonna fly it to, like I because
To
to
protect
make
my
up for the thing
friend.
that I did. And
Yeah.
yeah, and like,
Yeah.
because if he's not here, he's gonna lose his job, and that's
Yep.
everything, right? Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he really goes out on a limb for him. And
Yeah.
that's why Cliff is willing to strap an experimental rocket to his back and save his life, right?
Right.
Like that. And that is community, that's family, that's love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay for a man to love another man. It's not a bad thing. Even
Yep.
saying it on a podcast now that no one's even gonna hear, right? Like 100 people are gonna listen to this podcast, and I still in the back of my mind have the thing of like, can you say that? Can you say a man loving another man is okay? And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Well,
it's good. It's not okay. It's good. It's the way it should be.
and
It's
even his
fine.
relationship with Peavy is like so sweet. Like they're basically roommates,
Hmm.
and this guy's a little older, and he does, occasionally I notice he calls him son.
Yeah.
And so they have one of those relationships where it's like it's a little father son, but they're also just friends. It's like they have, a little, but they're just, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's just like they're coworkers, really. They both work at the airfield, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, but they live together, and so it's just I love their relationship. But I mean, other than Jenny, like Peavy is the one he's closest to, and so he's
Yeah.
always concerned about Peavy and checking in on him, and same thing, obviously, vice versa. So it's so yeah, it's just so different from what you get now. Like how there's different ways that you can hug. There's just a nice hug
Hmm.
where you
Hmm.
hug, and then there's the double tap sometimes with a fist, right? And that's the manly
Yeah.
hug. And like
Yeah.
there's none of that crap in this.
No.
And I really like that it's all that very genuine affection, very open. And I really love it. And you know what? The same is true even of the way that he approaches his relationship with Jenny. Like there's no, like, to your point about what lesson does he learn, he doesn't have to learn that, like, oh, I should show my feelings. Like he is kind of very open from the beginning about how he feels. The life or death situation means that he has to be a little more explicit about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's never any like, well, I don't want her to know that I love her or whatever. It's like, no, I mean, like I love her, and I want her to feel like I put her first. So that's the thing, is that she gives him that feedback about how, like, I feel like that I'm the last to know very early on. And that's why he shows up at the set to
Hmm.
talk to her, is specifically because she told him, I'm always the last to know. And he didn't want her to feel that way. So he immediately started making changes so that he could, become closer to her. So just it's a very healthy masculinity. It's just
Hmm.
very open. And to your point about just the 90s vibe in general, it's very, very sincere and very sweet. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that's also why you buy like the silly heel turn that the gangsters do at the end.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we're like, because that's the whole ethic of the movie, is like everybody's a good guy except for those Nazis. They suck. But everyone else is deep down is a good person.
Yeah, this it I want to pivot a little bit. I want to talk about Joe Johnston, because I think that a lot of the
Yes.
stuff that we're talking about is
Mhm.
is because of his sensibilities as a filmmaker.
Mhm.
And I love Joe Johnston as a director. For people who don't know, Joe Johnston is a person who is responsible for so many of the things that we love about the movies that we love. He is
Mhm.
involved in Star Wars. He designed Boba Fett's armor, right? Like, obviously
Mhm.
Ralph McQuarrie did the concept art of it, but the finished Boba Fett armor that we see on screen that was originally made for A New Hope was crafted by Joe Johnston. Um, he designed the Imperial Walker. He's his fingerprints are all over the Star Wars trilogy. He designed a lot of the stuff. He was, I believe, art director on, I think was his title, on Raiders of the
Mhm.
Lost Ark. So the whole aesthetic of that, like the flying wing, is one of his designs, which is
Mhm.
like that sequence and that plane are like so iconic with Indiana Jones. I But then he goes on and he directs a bunch of movies. I mean, before this one, his directorial debut is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which
Yes.
is like, come on, like one of the,
It
like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids
yes.
is also a perfect 10.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
so you can run down his filmography as a director, and there are multiple perfect 10s
Mhm.
on that filmography.
Yep.
He directed Captain America: The First Avenger, which I
Mhm.
personally think is hands down the most underrated film in the MCU.
It's
So
so
many
good.
people forget that it exists. Everybody like panned it when that movie came out and
Right.
did not see the vision. They just didn't see it, but Joe Johnston got it. And
Yeah.
I honestly, I see, because we already brought up Indiana Jones. He worked on that. He
Mhm.
goes over and he makes this movie. I mean, like, I think that pedigree is what gets him this film, right?
Probably,
With
yeah.
Disney.
Mhm.
I This film to me is, as far as I'm concerned, and I have felt this before shared universe was a thing. Like
Mhm.
back in the 90s when I saw this movie and was like, Indiana Jones, the Rocketeer, Nazis, heroes, these movies are in the same universe, right? Like
Absolutely.
these characters could so easily cross over and work together, and the fact that like we haven't really gotten that is such a travesty. And
Mhm.
then Joe Johnston goes on to make a sequel to the Indiana Jones franchise and the Rocketeer when he makes Captain America: The First Avenger, which is
Mhm.
the closest MCU film to an Indiana Jones that we're gonna get.
Yep.
Like, it's well, maybe not. There are other characters that we could bring in that could maybe get us closer, but pretty dang close. Because
Mhm.
like I look at that movie and I go, yeah, okay, we're 2 decades apart in making these films,
Mhm.
but in terms of vibe, in terms of just sort of like the moral content of what we're like, the stories that we're telling and the
Yep.
type of actors that we're casting in these roles. I mean, yeah, Stanley Tucci as Dr. Erskine in that movie
Mhm.
is absolutely cut from the same cloth as Alan Arkin's PD, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep. Yep. Yep.
those guys would get along so well. I and yeah, like obviously Indy, I Cliff, and Steve Rogers would be
Absolutely.
fast friends, right? So like,
Absolute
yeah,
they would have a fun beer summit, that's
oh
for
my
sure.
god, like, yeah, just like the story that requires the three of them. Let's also throw Bucky into it, right? So the
Yeah.
four of them, I traipsing across Europe in order to stop some Nazi plot. Like, it's
Yep.
just
Oh
it
my gosh.
honestly, it writes itself. Like,
I
it
know.
like plot again, just like this movie. The plot is not important here. We'll pick a MacGuffin. It'll be
Yeah.
something. It
It's
does a
fine.
thing. If the Red Skull gets it, then it's going to be a bad news for everybody else. So these guys, like, all we got to do is we got to figure out what is it about having a rocket pack in this situation changes things that we need to have the Rocketeer alongside Indiana Jones and Captain America, right? Like,
Yep.
that is the only problem to solve in writing that story.
Yep.
Everything else falls into place so perfectly, and that's because Joe Johnston, like, he just like he is one of the most underrated directors in Hollywood. The
Yeah.
fact that he was not the first person on the list when Disney bought Lucasfilm
Mhm.
drives me crazy.
Mhm.
I really genuinely feel, and when that was announced, because you have to remember, like, because it's 2010 when he makes Captain America, right? I think it's, yeah, because 2011
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
Avengers, right?
Right, right.
So
Mhm.
2011, and then 2012 is when Disney buys Lucasfilm, right? October of 2012
Mhm.
is when that's announced. So like, in my brain, I'm going like, nobody gets it. Captain America was awesome. That movie was fantastic. Joe
Yep.
Johnston is the reason why. The Rocketeer is the reason why. Indiana Jones is the reason why. Like, that isn't Captain America: The First Avenger is an Indiana Jones Marvel movie, and people just weren't ready to understand that
Yep.
Marvel, like, the point of the MCU is that we can swap genres. They didn't get
Mhm.
it with that. They didn't get it with Thor, right? Like, both of those movies were looked at as failures. But in retrospect, people are like, "Oh, they're great though." And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they are, and they always were. You guys just weren't ready for it yet. You didn't understand what the MCU was going to be. Um and so like in 2012 that gets announced, and I'm like, man, who should make that Star Wars movie is Joe Johnston. And then we end up with JJ Abrams, which felt also very right at the time.
Mhm.
um but
If it had
but
stopped at Force Awakens, it would have been fine.
yes, yeah, but
So, yeah.
but I think there's a distinction here, right? Because JJ Abrams is a very good mimic.
Mhm.
JJ Abrams is able to look at Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and others and emulate what they did. But
Mhm.
Joe Johnston learned from those guys
Mhm.
directly.
Yeah.
He's actually in that lineage, in the way that, like, when we talk about Dave Filoni, touchy at the moment, but
Yeah.
let's wait and see what happens with a couple of
Yeah.
things. But
Yeah.
it's the same idea of like, these are guys who like studied at the feet
Right.
of these masters and continue that lineage, right? So I look at Joe
Mhm.
Johnston and I go, like, that, like, there is not a more logical choice if
Mhm.
you wanted to make genuine, authentic Star Wars. Like, I really think, like,
Yeah.
if you got him and Kasdan on the sequel
Oh
trilogy,
my
it
stop.
would it would
Stop.
have
I need
been
it now.
right.
No, I'm gonna
It would have
cry.
been perfect. So
Oh
like,
my god.
it's an alternate reality that we'll never get, but
Ugh.
but when you look at the films that Joe Johnston has made, and like the standouts, right? Because you've got Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Rocketeer, Jumanji,
Mhm.
Captain America, right? Like this is a guy who is more than a solid filmmaker. He is
Yeah.
a bankable blockbuster
Yeah.
filmmaker that has never ever been treated that way. Even like I'll even add Jurassic Park 3 because Jurassic Park 3 is one of my favorite Jurassic movies. It is
Mhm.
leaps and bounds better than any of the world films.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like by a long shot. And people
Yeah.
watch that movie, and because it's so far afield from the original Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
like people have opinions about it, but I actually like Jurassic Park 3 is actually also another perfect 10 in my
Mm.
eyes. Like,
Mhm.
and one day we'll probably do that episode. Um and I'll get into it, but like that is a movie that especially when you consider the way that the film ended up being produced,
Yeah.
like like Joe Johnston is a guy who can make a movie work. He just can.
Well, I also just saw apparently he directed October Sky. Have you seen that one?
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
so good. It's definitely like an underrated, certainly, I don't think it ever was any kind of blockbuster, but it's a great movie. And it shows, and to go back to your point about how he could be really wonderful with Star Wars, it, it, it's this obsession with space, right? It's a kid who's obsessed with
Yeah.
space and he's desperate to
Yeah.
get there, but he doesn't have any other resources or education. And it's all about how he manages it again with the help of his community. And
Yeah.
so it's a really beautiful movie. It's been years since I've watched it, but I do recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
For people who are listening, because it's
Yeah,
really
it's
good.
great.
But
It's
it's
great.
like, but this is what I'm talking about. It's very obvious from looking at his filmography that this is his style. Is this sincerity? So it's, yes, he makes action movies and blockbusters and so on and so forth, but the heart is there. It's there. He always finds it
Yeah.
in every movie and makes sure that there is that emotional connection to the characters, and again, that there's no cynicism in the story. And I really really love that
Yeah.
is what he does, and that is what in Rocketeer is just on display the whole way through the entire film. So again, to go back to, you were talking about how uh, Jenny, the character, saves herself. Well, part of that, the way that happens, is that, as I said, she was upset with Cliff. He immediately wanted to make amends. And so he was trying to fix things, but he's a little
Yeah.
clumsy. So he messed things up. And so she's mad at him, and Timothy Dalton's character takes advantage of it and asks her out to dinner. And she's so funny because even though she's annoyed at Cliff, when he shows up and explains what's going on and tells her how he feels, she believes him immediately. And she's immediately on his side, in his corner. And even
Hmm.
when there is horrible danger, she's running back into the fray so that she can defend him. And I love that. I love that we didn't have to play with like these, do these characters, are they comfortable showing their feelings about each other? And no, they're both all in from the beginning. They're just,
Yeah.
I just really really like that. It's so nice because I don't think I realize how exhausted I am with cynicism on film,
Yeah.
and with that sort of stoicism that
Yeah.
we get, especially in Star Wars these days. Honestly, that when
Yeah.
when you get this level of emotionality and sincerity on film, it just feels so nice.
So when we look at film history and the way that certain things came about and became like cultural zeitgeist in the
Hmm.
moment, I like one of those time periods which ties into this film is in the 70s, right? And it ties in
Hmm.
because of the George Lucas to Joe Johnston connection. In the
Hmm.
70s, films were what you're describing films as now, which is like
Yeah.
it was they were very cynical. Everything was a takedown.
Hmm.
I characters were unlikable, and stories were often like very like grotesque in
Hmm.
the lens, the mirror that they were holding up to society.
Mhm.
And that was all very much, you know, in response to sort of the cultural chaotic nature of the 60s and the 70s and, you
Yeah.
know,
Well,
Vietnam
like,
and
if
all of
you
that.
watch, like, The Graduate, I think is a great example.
Yeah, yeah.
That feels like a good
I always
example.
go to the
Mhm.
French Connection because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to me is a
Mhm.
movie where it's like that movie is such a massive success and considered you know, like a masterpiece of film. And I don't disagree. I think that the French Connection is an incredible movie. I mean, it's got one of the best chase sequences ever
Mhm.
put on film. It's so incredible. It's so masterfully put together, but it is difficult to watch because it is so cynical. It's
Mhm.
so it's so upsetting to watch, and there's nobody to root for and nobody is
Mhm.
likable. Everybody's a bad guy. And that it was in that climate that George Lucas was like, but what if movies could be this again? And he went
Yeah.
back to the serials, right? And that's where
Yep.
Star Wars and Indiana Jones are born from, right?
Mhm.
That's that attitude, and it's what ends up creating the blockbuster era, which is, you know, from 77 through to the 90s.
Mhm.
And I think that a movie like The Rocketeer and this time period, 92 to 93, I would say, like up until Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
um movies really get to this like very like sincere, genuine place that like I said, like very much a hallmark of the 90s. And it
Mhm.
is like it's George Lucas starting us on that
Yes.
trajectory and making a movie that is so successful that everybody wants to ape it, and so everything starts to take on the elements of Star Wars. And what I was going to say about Joe Johnston as a director, that one of the things that makes him stand out as compared to other directors making the types of movies that he makes is, and this is something that I think that he directly got from George and Steve, was his sense of wonder. Like that's what's in there. That's what's in October Sky. That's what's in this movie. That's what's in
Mhm.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like
Yeah.
it's there are these moments of like grandeur, right? These
Mhm.
moments of like, boy, oh boy, is that cool, right?
Yes.
Like you, because it's like, hey man, like I love it when something is fucking rad, right? Like you, that's
Yes.
me. Like I love it, and
Yes.
that's my aesthetic, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
often aiming for. But Joe Johnston makes movies that don't fit that aesthetic. They like you. The only way to describe the grandeur and the wonder in his movies is with terminology from a film like The Rocketeer. Like,
Yeah.
golly gosh jeepers, that's cool,
Yes!
right?
Exactly!
Like that's when
It's
I
like
think of
that.
his movies, like that's what I think of. And
Yeah.
so I hope that we're on the cusp right now of getting back to that. There have been a few things recently that are sort of putting me on that. And I think like
Mhm.
James Gunn, his Superman is gonna be the thing to me that like says, okay, are we back? Like
I
is that
hope
what we're
so, but I'm
doing?
nervous. We'll see.
I am also
So,
nervous. I am also
yeah.
nervous, but I am also like cautiously optimistic and hopeful. The thing about James Gunn that I see is that he talks about movies the same way that we talk about
Yeah.
movies. And so I
Mhm.
think like, and I think that James Gunn gets exactly what you and I are talking about when we're
Mhm.
talking about this film. Like he would, I hope that James Gunn would listen to this podcast and be like, exactly. Right? Like
Yeah, right?
that he'd be
Yeah.
sitting there like clapping and like agreeing with us so hard about like it. It's not that the cynical movies are
No,
bad.
they're not
It's not
bad,
that
and they
that
have their
storytelling is
place.
bad. Yeah, like
Mhm.
it absolutely has its place, and there are times in history where I think we need that lens and
Mhm.
that lens on that mirror, right?
Mhm.
Because the mirror is going to reflect back at us, you know, what we want to see, but the lens that you put in front of it is going to alter it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when we're talking about these metaphors in filmmaking, like, and that cynical lens that the 70s were really known for, and that I think
That we get a lot
the
of now.
20 the
Mhm.
20 the late 2010s and the 2020s have really been known for.
Yeah.
um it's
Mhm.
it it's important for us to start to recognize when society is going off the rails,
Yeah.
but it's very easy to get caught in a cycle of hopelessness, which I think is what people were feeling in the 70s.
Yeah. Well, like,
And
I don't watch a lot of these. Okay, so let's give some recent examples. Like, of course, Game of
yeah,
Thrones is the famous one, but there's also Succession, there's Severance, there's White
yep,
Lotus, like all
yep,
of these like popular sort of, big event shows, because a lot of the prestige filmmaking has moved to TV. And so
yeah,
a lot of this kind of stuff, like, yes, it's wonderful and I understand that people love it, but oh my god, is it bleak.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
bleak, 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 bleak. And I
It,
just, a lot of it, I can't watch because it's too upsetting.
well, it's exhausting,
So
right?
it
Like
is.
the real world is so difficult to wrestle with that when we go
Yeah.
to our escapism and our fantasy, and it is even an even more exaggerated version of that hopelessness. I think that like that's where we get into really bad territory where then, I think that creates fervent ground for radicalization
I agree.
on both sides, because I think that it, like, people bucket and go so
Mhm.
far the other way that they go into toxic positivity, right? And but then some people go in, like, they start calling the Joker a hero, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
those are sort of like the two options that you're given when all you have is extremes, right?
Or you get anytime someone proposes something that is hopeful or about we can
Yeah,
build something together or renewal or, hey, we can fix this together. You get a lot of cynical people coming in, especially on social media, and going, wow, why would you think that? Nah, that's not possible. You're clearly missing out on this.
yeah,
And what about that? Like, a lot of people who will just beat that down. Any attempt at optimism is seen as naive, and it's
yeah.
just, and it is our duty to knock the hope out of that person. And that is really sad to me, that is such a common thing, but it is very much something that is reflected in our media. And
Yeah.
so what I love about something like this is there's a sense of joy and wonder in it. There's humor. We haven't mentioned yet that the score is James Horner, and it's
Yeah.
again just like this movie. James Horner is very hard. um
Yeah.
like, it's recognizable that from the very first strains in the opening scene, you're like, that's James Horner. And it sounds a lot like, his other, it sounds like Pearl Harbor, which he also composed
Yes.
for, and
Yeah.
which is also a plane movie. And so you're like, he clearly has a certain sound for his plane movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And flying in the air. It is
yeah,
like the
he's
yeah the
he's got that
yeah
flying sound down.
yeah
But it's a delight, and it gives you that soaring feeling, and the fact and again, I know it's some of the compositing is kind of clunky and it doesn't really
yeah
hold up. It's still, there's this, they have you fly with Cliff and he's up in the clouds, and it's just like, it is, I had such a big grin on my face watching this movie. I was just happy the whole way through. I was laughing, I was giggling. I just, it's so fun to watch. And I miss having those kinds of movies. There are really
Well,
not that many
it
of them now.
yeah it's I think what it is that it's just not complicated, right?
Yeah.
And I love a deep story. I love
Sure.
subtext. I love motifs and themes, and like obviously, like it's one of the reasons why we love Star Wars so much, is because
Hmm.
it's such incredible material for that sort of dissection. And we get to live in it when we do that. But there is also a place for stories that just kind of are what they are, where the
Hmm.
text, like the subtext is the text, and the text is the subtext, and we
Hmm.
really don't need to dig in order to enjoy it. And it's not to say that a film like The Rocketeer is in any way shallow. It is
No.
just, it's just sincere and genuine. There's nothing being said in this movie that is like a subversive
Yeah.
sort of
Right.
message. Like the subversive thing about it is sort of the anachronistic nature of it, because it's a an alternate timeline sci-fi
Hmm.
sort of thing. So there's that, but and then like the other part of it is just like is that very, like I was saying, that classic 80s 90s hero trope of him just being
Hmm.
like this hapless
Yeah.
hero with a heart of gold, right?
Right,
Like
exactly. Yes.
that that
Mhm.
that was that is a subversive thing, because it is very much something that's like sort of a takedown of Schwarzenegger and Stallone, who are like the action stars of the era, right? So, and we've
Mhm.
got, uh, previous to this film, I think that he was generally like billed as Billy Campbell, not Bill Campbell. I think this was the
Hmm.
one where he tried to like step into the like, I'm not a kid anymore, I'm Bill Campbell. But I think he goes back to Billy Campbell afterwards.
Well,
Um,
it's interesting because for being the star of this movie,
yeah,
I don't remember him in a lot of other stuff. And so it's interesting that like this, I don't really think he did break into stardom with this, which is probably, to be honest, is probably part of the reason why people forget about this movie, is
yep,
because it doesn't have someone that went on to become a big name. And so it's, people are like, "Oh yeah, that was a good movie. I like that." And you know what's funny about it? I didn't see it when it came out. I was in the target age range for this, and I did not see it when it came
oh really?
out. It was. I remember seeing all the promos for it and everything. I remember all of the trailers on TV and everything. I just didn't. I didn't see it in theaters, and then it wasn't until years and years later. I think I was married before I finally sat down and watched this movie. And then I remember just being like, "Why didn't I watch this when it came out? It's so good." So it's just great. It's great, and I'm so happy it exists. And also, it's a movie I can show my kids. And I got to tell you, I know that people say that all the time, but here's the problem I think we've come at now is now instead of making sort of family films, now we have kids movies, which often are kind of they phone it in a little bit and the
Yep,
quality is not great.
yep,
Or they have movies where they want to be able to advertise that it's specifically not for kids. So they put a bunch of stuff in it, which then makes it not really family appropriate. So you end up with very little that is designed to appeal to all ages. And so
yep.
what I love about this movie is that it is absolutely appealing to all ages. I can sit down with my whole family and watch this movie, and we all have a great time.
Yeah, like if I hear this is blank but for grown-ups one more
Yeah.
time, I'm gonna start punching people in the face. Like
Yes.
because I am so sick of everything for kids being taken away from them.
Yes. Thank
This
you.
is this is Star Wars, but for grown-ups. Well, guess what?
Ugh.
Star Wars isn't for grown-ups, okay? Space wizards, laser swords, like alien furry teddy bears
Yes.
and like talking dogs. That stuff is for kids, and
Yes.
it's okay for it to be for kids, and it is
Mhm.
okay. Hear me when I say this, people who are not regulars to my podcast and have heard me say this a million times. But if you are new, if you've just tuned in because you're like the Rocketeer on a podcast, cool. Understand when I say this, it is okay as an adult to act like a kid.
Yes.
I give you full permission to
Mhm.
be as childish as you want when it comes to the media that you are consuming. It's fine. You are hurting no one. It is not doing any damage. No one should be upset about this.
Mhm.
Have fun. It's
Yes.
okay. Play games,
Yep.
please, for the love of God. Like, and I don't mean like that doesn't mean like go out and like play a game, but just like in your own brain, just go into your
Mhm.
imagination and just play.
Can
It's okay.
Yeah.
I hate it. I
I
hate that
know.
we live in a society where we're told that play is bad.
Can I tell a quick story?
Yes.
So it would have been 2019, so it was before the pandemic. I was on a business trip and I was going to uh DC, I think. I was on a flight and the guy sitting next to me ended up kind of glancing over. And funny enough, I don't even know what I was doing. It was something Star Wars related because, of course,
Hmm.
it was. Keep in mind, 2019, this was before Rise of Skywalker came out. So this was when we were all really excited and thought everything was going to be great.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was doing something and I don't remember what it was, but he looks over at me and he's a little younger than me. I could tell that he was relatively recently out of school. And he was like, kind of, oh, that's kind of cool. What are you doing? And we started talking. And he started to indicate that he had, in his teen years, really enjoyed going to cons and, just participating in all kinds of geek culture. I think he liked doing cosplay. He liked doing all different kinds of things. And that he had been led to believe that now that he was a grown up and he
Hmm.
had a big job, big person job and all this other
Yeah.
stuff, that he was not allowed to do that stuff anymore. And so he was not doing any of these things anymore. And he didn't admit to anyone that he enjoyed this stuff. And so he saw me, a good bit older than him, doing this and was like, "Oh, wow, what are you doing? What are you up to?" And I started talking to him about all the stuff I do and how I go to cons and how I do this and that. And he started to get so excited. And after a while, I was just like, "Hey, listen, I want you to know." I was like, "If you have people that make you feel bad about this, those are not your friends."
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you should go do the things you enjoy, and you're going to find a great community of people who also enjoy doing this. If you want to cosplay, go find the
Yeah.
cosplayers because they're out there and you're going to have a great time with them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would just really, he left and I could tell he just had this new kind of bounce in his step and was just very excited. And on the one hand, I was happy that we met and I was able to get
Yeah.
him excited about the things that he loved as a kid again. And on the other hand, I was so sad that there's so many people out there that are made to feel this way, that they can't enjoy the things they loved when they were kids, or that they can't enjoy things that kids also love.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the number of times that I will meet a new person and start talking to them, and I will inevitably start to reveal my true self. I will begin the unmasking process, and I'll testing the waters to see if they're a safe person, and and then we'll hit on something. We'll hit on, I don't know, it might be Star Wars, it might be Spider-Man, it might be Dragon Ball
Mm-hmm.
or Godzilla. It's different for everybody that I meet, but like I'm into so
Yep.
many things. I have so many fandoms that like I can find something to connect with anybody.
Yes,
Anybody.
absolutely.
And the way that I see people light up when you bring up the thing that they loved as a kid, um
Mm-hmm.
but then the way that they themselves like shut that down. they
Yeah.
they 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 douse that flame all on their own, and it's like it really is like the measure of like, hey, are we going to be friends? Because
Mm-hmm.
if I then go like essentially what the story that you told of like, hey, like it's cool, like you can be into this, it's not
Yeah.
a problem, right? Like, and if you've got people telling you that you can't, then those people maybe you should reassess, right?
Yeah.
um if I get to that stage with the person and they are the one who starts shutting stuff down, that's the point where I go like, cool, you're nice, but I don't think that we're going to be friends. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't think that this is going to go anywhere. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like like to me, it's like, that is one of those things that like, you gotta, in order to hang, you gotta be able to get into this stuff with me, because I am
Mm-hmm.
going to, whether I want to or not. Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
my specific brand of ADHD is going to, like, on a given day, I might decide that Transformers are the coolest thing, and that's all I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if we're gonna be friends, you got to be able to keep up. You got to be able
I
to like
know.
run alongside that train and hop on it with me, because like we're riding the rails to Transformers Town today, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and literally, like, the funniest thing about this is that like, as I pull these fandoms, I am literally just looking at my desk.
Yep.
I'm just looking at my desk, because on my desk right now I have Cyclops, I've got an Arcanine, I've got some Lego figures, I've got a Back to the Future hoverboard tech deck, Goku and Vegeta, a whole bunch of Star Wars
Oh
guys,
my
a whole bunch of
gosh.
Transformers, a Jurassic Park skeleton Funko Pop, Superior Spider-Man standing behind him, Mega
Nice.
Man, and then my Star Wars The Jedi Mindfulness book for when I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, and right next to that is Sonic the Hedgehog and a Chow. like
Yeah, because
like
why
that's
not?
that's
Yeah.
that's my desk. Like, that's what I'm doing. This is the stuff that I got to keep around me in order to be like, let's go, let's do it, like, let's keep the creativity at an all-time high. Let's fuel it. But like, I just it breaks my heart when I meet people who have had like literally in some instances beaten out of them, you
Yes,
know,
it's just
like just
heartbreaking.
it is such a big part of why I think things in the world are kind of the way that they are, and why
Mhm.
um I it's been so easy for us to just have community taken away from us in a
Mhm.
way, and like we've just kind of let it happen, and we've let third spaces disappear, and
Yep.
it watching a movie like The Rocketeer, both in terms of like the time period that the film is set in and the sort of
Mhm.
idyllic Americana nature of the way that it's presented, which is obviously, it's a narrative, it's fictional, this is
Sure.
not reality, but
Mhm.
those narratives and those fictions also have meaning, like that just because it's not real doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah.
um but that, and then also like a lot of what we've been talking about on this podcast about that point in time, and sort of the sincerity, and I think that a lot of us, older millennials, um I and sort of the younger end of Gen Z or Gen X, sorry,
Mhm.
I we are
Xenials.
very, yeah, we have very rose tinted glasses about the
Mhm.
90s,
Yes.
but I think for very good reason. I think that what was presented to us in our childhood was, and again, I'm going to be speaking from the lens of a white male, in, Canada,
Mhm.
in like, you know middle class, and all of that. So
Mhm.
like take all of that for how that is obviously coloring my opinion and my experience of the 90s, but I think for us, for that group,
Mhm.
very specifically in particular, I it is kind of what we're going for, right,
Yeah.
as a society. Like, I really think it is. I think the lesson to be learned from our youth to 2025,
Mhm.
and the thing that we're seeing society, sort of rail against, in the extinction burst
Mhm.
event that's happening, is you know like, inclusivity is the important part. It was really
Mhm.
great in the 90s for a certain group of people, um and wouldn't it be great if that was true for everybody? And
Mhm.
I think, like for me, I will use my I statements and speak for myself. When I'm thinking about social justice and societal change and what I want the world to be, that's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I really would love to go back to the way that I felt, and I would love to give my kids a life like the one that I had in
Right.
the 90s, but
Yep.
one that is true for everybody
It's
who wants to be
available
a
to
part of it.
everyone. Yeah,
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
that
Mhm.
accessibility, that we're accounting, that when we do that, we are
Mhm.
actively, purposefully accounting for people of different races, religions, creeds, levels
Abilities.
of ability, right? Like,
Mhm.
all of that, neurodivergence, all of it. Just like, can we please, and I think the thing is that when you look at the time periods that kind of get like zoned in on in certain time periods in the 90s, we were really, really obsessed with two time periods. We were obsessed with the 30s, pre World
Mhm.
War II, and
Mhm.
we were obsessed with the 60s,
Mhm.
sort of like right in the lead up to all of the culture stuff that would happen in the
Right.
60s, right?
Right. Mhm.
It's like, let's just talk about the Beatles, let's just talk about landing on the moon, let's not talk about Martin Luther King, let's not talk
Yeah.
about Malcolm X, let's
Right.
not get into that stuff, let's not get into difficult things, and segregation, and like the culture stuff. Like, like
Well,
the 90s were very much like, can we remember what it was like right before these horrible events?
Well, it was like, so it was like, you know what it was is, I've heard it referred to before as a popular philosophy in the 90s referred to as the end of history, which was the idea
Mm,
that we had kind of reached the pinnacle of progress, which was never
yeah.
true, but it
No.
was very much the prevailing ethos at the time was
It
this
felt that
idea
way.
that
It
was
felt
this
that way.
because the Soviet Union had fallen and all these other things, and so
Yeah,
it was
and the Cosby Show was one of the biggest shows on television, and look how
right.
that
And
turns
so
out.
right, but there was this overall idea that because while it was not necessarily obviously it was not ubiquitous peace and prosperity, because it was probably greater peace and prosperity than there had
Mhm.
been in any previous era. It gave this impression that all problems had been solved and everything was great now,
Yeah,
right?
we
And
did it.
so
Yeah.
so and there's here's the thing about that is like, on the one hand, that was sweeping a lot of issues under the rug. On
Mhm.
the other hand, there's a lot of studies that show that children being raised in an environment where they feel safe and secure is really, really, really good for their psychological development. And so, what we're talking about here is that children in the 90s, and obviously, again, not all children, but many children in the 90s who were raised in a period of relative peace and prosperity had very secure childhoods. And so, so there, and this, and all of the media and the fiction of the time really reinforced that. It was like the good guys always win and they're always
Mhm.
good and everything's great. And, this community takes care of each other and blah, blah, blah. That was just the impression. And on the one hand, we needed eventually then to deconstruct that and see the things that we weren't talking about and the problems that we weren't addressing and the iniquities and all. And that was an important thing. But then I think that what we're talking about is the possibility that that has gone so far now that we can no longer see the path to something better. And
Yeah.
all we can do is just deconstruct, deconstruct, deconstruct until there's nothing left.
Yeah, and I think where this comes back into like Perfect 10 as not just the topics that we're talking about, but like as a project overall, and the reason why I do this podcast is that it becomes incumbent on us as people who are participating in society, right,
Mm-hmm.
to if that needs to change, if we need to shift away from cynicism and we need to shift away from that dark lens and anti-heroes and all of that sort of stuff, the only way we're going to do it, the only way we're going to make that cultural shift is going to be through popular culture. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is it's such a funny thing because it is dismissed so readily by so many people. It was like, whatever. Oh, that Pokemon thing is just a fad. Oh, those
Right.
MCU movies. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, this stuff is so silly. And it's like, yeah, but also these stories and the purpose that they serve in our society, as they always have since they
Mm-hmm.
were, plays and myths in
Yep.
ancient Greece being taught to that society as lessons to learn and ways to live life, like
Mm-hmm.
that is like that's what we're doing with this stuff. So as creatives and as people engaged with creative stuff, right, whether you're making something or you're commentating on it in a podcast or on a website or on social media or whatever, I think like there's a responsibility at a certain point to recognize, hey, we need to shift the culture, and enough people have to do it. It has to hit a critical mass, and it hasn't yet. Star Wars is what did it in the 70s. Like that's what really, like, I think pulled people out of that funk and that cynicism in the 70s into a hopeful age that then culminates in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like, something will come along and we'll do it again. I don't know if it's going to be Superman. I would love it if it was, because that character, that's what he stands for. It's what he
Mm-hmm.
means. Another character that would get along great with Cliff, like just like
It's
these
true.
these are characters, like it's I like, would these guys be pals? Absolutely, they'd be
Yep.
pals, the best of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, that's where I'm at right now. And if most of my teenage and adult life has been like, what if so and so fought so and so, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's cool, but like, what if what if they were just friends, actually? Like, what if
Yeah.
what like how about we talk about the strong guys that would get along, that wouldn't fight
Mm-hmm.
each other, and that would just recognize in the other person, it's like, oh, you're pretty
Yep.
strong. That's cool. let's
Yeah.
go have a hamburger, right?
Yeah.
Let's just go chill. We don't need to fight. It's not, there's nothing
Mhm.
here to prove, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yep.
it's more important to me who would just be like a chill hang, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
than who can
Exactly.
punch the hardest. And so I don't know, I think I am trying with the stuff that I'm doing to bring back some of that stuff and some of those ideas, whether it's, you know, like childlike adventure, right? Or just, yeah, like, I don't know, hopefully like kindness being at the core of our
Yeah,
heroes, the most
definitely.
important feature of them, and not, you know, how powerful they are, or you
Mhm.
know, yeah, I do actually feel like I brought up Thunderbolts at the beginning, and I won't go into too much because I would have to go into spoiler territory, and not everybody's had the opportunity to
I
see it.
haven't yet, so no
Yeah,
spoilers.
but just like as much as it is like, let's dig into trauma, let's dig into our shadow and explore that, um it is ultimately, as a superhero story, it is hopeful. I
Mhm.
feel like I want it to be the close of the chapter and the opening
Mm.
of the next one, right?
Mhm.
I think that it actually might be the perfect thing for that.
Mhm.
So if you haven't seen it yet, because you're exhausted by MCU movies, and you know, you saw Brave New World hoping that that would be a thing, but it turns out that that was just it's just 2 hours of window dressing with no substance whatsoever, which is so
Mm.
unfortunate. I it makes me mad more than anything with that movie. But yeah, Thunderbolts, against all odds, should have been the MCU movie that I probably like the least, and I think it's one of the ones in the last few years that I like the most.
Mhm.
It is a really, really great film.
Nice.
But I hope that it's a precursor to, like, you know, Fantastic Four and Superman, both coming in July, that are, it's like, okay, like, let's step into a new era
Mhm.
where our heroes are heroes, and hope is hope.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because
We'll see.
I don't know, I think we need it.
Yeah.
I think we need heroes like Cliff Secord and
Mhm.
Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones,
Mhm.
and you know, many others from that, you know, sort of like 70s to 90s era to come
Mhm.
back. We need some good examples to remind us
Yep.
that
Yeah.
it's not like, anti-heroes are cool and they're fun, but you know, like, it's
Yeah.
not everything. It's,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyways, I think, I mean, like, I think that's it. I think that does
Yeah.
it. Was there anything else that you wanted to hit on before we wrap it
No, I
up?
mean, like, it's there's so much to enjoy in this movie, and like I said, even though it's not historically accurate, if you do know a little bit about history, there are a lot of really fun Easter eggs in it. I really enjoy
Yeah,
the appearance of W.C. Fields. That's really funny.
yeah, yeah,
I really like the whole reference to the spruce goose and Howard Hughes.
yeah,
You know, the
yeah. It
damn
will
thing will
fly.
fly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like all of that is
yeah,
just it's fun. It's fun to have those little moments in there. So all of that
yeah,
to say, this movie really has something for everyone. So I do just definitely recommend everybody watch it. It is a good time, just a good time. You will
yeah.
finish it feeling good about yourself and the world.
And hey, listen, also, can we bring back movies that are an hour and 45 minutes?
Yeah, it's
Like,
a quick one.
come on. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
hey, I'll do you one better. Can movies be 90 minutes,
90
guys?
minute movies.
Can
Yes.
we have some 90-minute family films, for God's sake,
I
please?
know.
Although,
Yes.
like, I will say, in the last year we have gotten a few real bangers when it comes to the family films. The Wild
Hmm.
Robot being probably at the top of my
Oh my
list.
gosh, it's so good.
What a
Yeah.
great movie.
Love that movie.
But The
Hmm.
Wild Robot, I don't think, is 90 minutes. I think it pushes 2 hours, and it's
Oh,
like,
really? I don't
it's
know.
long.
It's good though.
It's it's fantastic, but
Hmm.
it is a bit of a long movie. But
Hmm.
um yeah, no, thank you so much for bringing this as the topic, because it was like,
Hmm.
this was just so easy. It was just so simple, and it's funny because we just did Back to the Future with Cheryl, like I said, and
Yep.
that one was also like, there's not a lot. I don't have a lot to say other than how much I love this movie,
It's just
and
fun.
sometimes that's all it needs to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny. The next one that we're talking about is Independence Day with both
Oh
Carl
my gosh.
and Joe.
Oh
So
my
Carl
gosh.
Leclerc from The Wampus Lair and Joe Hogan, my regular co-host over on Forced Perspectives.
Yes.
But they are obsessed with that movie. They love it so much. They watch it every year together.
It's a good
Um,
time. That's a
yeah.
fun one. It's just, yeah, love
So
it.
that's another one where it's like I think we're gonna be able to just like have a good time.
Yep.
But don't worry, because I know that Ty's gonna bring the heat when we get to the Meg. She has a
Yes,
lot to
I
say. She has a lot to
know.
say about shark movies specifically.
Yeah, well, if you
So
haven't watched On Wit and Folly, if you haven't watched
yeah,
her overall kind of shark movie, I don't
yeah.
know what you'd call it, survey, it's very good.
Yeah,
So yeah.
her video essay on that
Hmm.
topic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I know that it is one that is very near and dear to her.
Yep.
So I'm excited to dig into that. But yeah, on that note, I the Meg is the last one that we've got like sort of scheduled for season 3, which means that season 4 of Perfect 10 is right around the corner. I think what I will
Oh
probably
man.
do is take July off in order to organize season 4 and line everybody up for that. But what I want to say to the listening audience is, what is one thing that we haven't covered yet on Perfect 10 that you would absolutely love for us to talk about? And if one of our past guests fits the bill for that, let us give me the heads up so that I can take that to them and say, hey, the audience wants you guys to talk about these things, right? To
Hmm.
dig into these. So I know that there will be a few on the list. I know that Jurassic Park will be high on the list. I know I more Star Wars will be high on the list from a lot of people. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna say this: really dig deep. You would throw a perfect 10 at me. Really dig deep on the thing that you love that other people maybe just don't get. They just don't get it, but you love it so much. So here's my example, and it's one that we haven't done yet, and uh, it's because there's a very specific guest that I would like to eventually be able to get on this podcast to talk about this topic. So I haven't given it to anybody else yet. I'm just holding it back, and that's The Last Starfighter, one of my all-time favorite movies. Like in my top 5. And I know that that is not a common opinion. I know that that is not normal. I know that that is just a way that I feel about that movie. Not that it's bad, but just that like The Last Starfighter is not one that hits with everybody,
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons. But for me, it is just like it's one of the best movies ever made. Um, so what is that movie or TV show or even like video game, comic book, whatever piece of pop culture media, and just like just let us know. Either come hang out on Discord and let us know, or you can find me on Blue Sky and all over the place. To like on social media, we're on Instagram, TikTok, all over the place. So whatever makes the most sense for you to send us a message, like just let us know what topics would you love to see in season 4 of Perfect 10, and if you have a suggestion for who the guest on that episode would be, also throw that in there. Because I know that people have opinions on like things that they would like to hear you talk about, Missy, as well as Marie
Oh,
Claire gets
really?
brought up a lot.
People want
Yeah,
to hear
we're
me talk? I don't know about
Oh,
that.
for sure, for sure, for sure. People, there are things where people are like, I would really love to see it. It's so funny. It's you, Marie Claire, and Ty that people bring up the most to me of like when I'm talking to them, and these are always like private conversations,
Hmm.
direct messages and stuff. People are
Yeah.
like, it would be really cool if Marie Claire talked about this. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, it would be really cool. Maybe we'll get to that.
Yep.
I'm sure that people have suggestions along those lines, and I would love to. I would love to just get a little bit more from the audience, because I am honestly at the point where, other than the few obvious ones that are left, like Jurassic Park,
Hmm.
and like some of the MCU films and stuff like that, um, I I'm kind of starting to run out of of things. But that's the great thing about this podcast, is that when I go to the guests and I say, hey, what do you want to talk about,
Hmm.
you guys throw me curveballs sometimes, but other times you loft me nice softballs like this one.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, they're both, it's like both are wonderful.
Well,
It's just fun to talk about things that we love, but
I've definitely got some more obscure stuff, so I think it's gonna just depend on what kind of things people have an appetite for.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, like, there on the one hand, there's the thing that maybe people, like you said, they don't get the appeal of, but then there's also the thing that people have never bothered to watch because they haven't heard someone gush over it. So it just kind of depends.
Yeah,
Plus,
totally.
to your point, maybe your audience has things that we've never seen that they
Well,
think we
yeah,
should watch and
I
experience.
think, yeah, I think that's kind of the one that
Mhm.
I'm looking for, right? And I think about that,
Yeah.
and probably the reason why it's forefront in my mind is because you are the guest on this episode, and Roman Holiday is a movie that I never would have gone out of my way to
Yeah.
watch, that somebody needed to make me watch for whatever reason, whether, you know, like we did it for the podcast or if it had been in like film school or something like that, that I end up watching and going like, this is a great, this, yeah, this is a perfect 10.
Mhm.
This is one of the best movies of this genre, and I've never seen it, and boy was I missing out, right? So
Mhm.
so yeah, like hit us with that stuff, hit us with the stuff that you think, I think that's the best way to put it. What are we missing out on? What are the perfect
Yes.
10s in your life that you think we've missed, right?
Mhm.
And let us know. And yeah, like based on past episodes and the topics that we've covered, I throw out a guest that you think like vibes with that. Because I think it would be cool to get that from some of the listeners, because I know
Mhm.
that they have ideas, I know that they have stuff that they want me to
Nice.
talk about. So
Awesome.
um awesome. Well, that's it. Missy,
Cool.
where can people find you if they're looking for you on the internet?
Please look for me on Tumblr where I am all girls are princesses.
Awesome. I will just really quickly plug, I just started a Substack, archangelwolf.substack.com. And you can go over there and you can subscribe to that. Currently, as of this recording, there's really no reason to. There's nothing there. But I do have a bunch of stuff. I've been sort of like trying to figure out a place that I wanted to be to I get rid of some of the things that are in my brain, stuff that's not necessarily like a podcast topic fully, but just something that I want to say. And I used to do it on Twitter, and I've tried doing it on Blue Sky a little bit, but I'm actually kind of done with that format with the like the tweet threads and stuff. And I feel like I should just be writing these things out. I should just be writing essentially essays on these things when they come to mind, instead of creating this sort of, I don't know, internet detritus, is the
Mhm.
way that I've come to think of it. Is like, because once it's hard, so hard to go back and find that stuff, and it's not really like, I don't know, it's not serving the purpose that I want it to. So that was one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I'm going to do the Substack thing, and help people keep up to date with my projects and the stuff that I'm putting out there into the world, that is not algorithm based but is subscription based, that is more than just the podcast, more than just Patreon. So yeah, so if you're into like my illustration, but you also want to sort of get some of those weird um moments when I go way too deep on a very specific aspect of Star Wars, I think that's where I'm gonna do it. That's my goal with that. So that's my pitch, to go subscribe to my Substack. You can subscribe to Substack for free, and also you don't need to create an account. It's why I picked it as the platform, because you can literally just put your email in and it'll prompt you to create an account, but you don't have to.
Mhm.
What'll end up happening is you'll just get an email. You'll just, when I post a new actual post, you'll get an email, and then you can spend time on Substack if you want, and it's got social media features like everything else. But if you just want to like be there for the articles that I'm posting, sort of thing, that's all you need to do. You just put your email in and you're subscribed. And also, like when I have new like art projects and products in my online store and stuff like that, that's where I'll be pumping that stuff out for people who care. So yeah, Archangel Wolf, Archangel with a K and Wolf with a U, because I have to be unique and cool. .substack.com to subscribe to that. But that's it. That's my pitch. That's my pitch and plug for what I'm doing. And that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks for listening to Thunderquack Perfect 10. Join the conversation on our Discord server over at thunderquack.com/Discord. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast service and leave a rating and review. And until next time, remember, it's not about the score, it's about the love. Stay frosty. Thunderquack Perfect 10 is hosted by me, Michael Cohen. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TQPerfect10 and join the community at thunderquack.com/Discord. This podcast is supported by listeners just like you over at patreon.com/Thunderquack. Head over there to get early access to episodes, exclusive podcasts, and more. This show is a part of the Thunderquack Podcast Network. Head over to thunderquack.com for more great shows. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.